Welcome back to the balance sheet. I am one of your co hosts, Billy. This is my co host, Raj. We have a fun show for you guys this week. It is Sunday when we're recording this, and last night was WWE War Games, which of course had the women's War Game match and then a title match between Stephanie Becker and Nikki Bella. Uh, and a big, huge return in the women's division of a woman that we are big fans of on this show. Liv Morgan returned to us back from injury, so we'll be covering that. We'll also have the AEW weekend review and a fun Mercedes related pop culture reference, along with our top five. It is Thanksgiving week, top five matches that we are most thankful for. So we appreciate everyone joining us once again. Raj, I'm going to kick it to you. War Games in San Diego. This is our version of Survivor Series for the moment. Let's start with the main event, or uh, the War Games match leading the event off. What did you think?
Yeah, so right behind me on screen is the Women's War Games match. It kicked off in San Diego, a massive crowd, stadium show, about 43,000 legitimate tickets were sold. They always embellish the number for why I don't know. Like, what's wrong with just saying you had 43,000, not
It's a great
46,000
number. Yeah.
at some insane ticket prices. And so you got the Women's War Games match that kicked off the show, and the babyface team is kind of a dream team. It's Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, AJ Lee, Rhea Ripley, Io Sky versus the team of Asuka, Kyrie, Becky Lynch, Nia Jax, Lash Legend. And on paper, I had very high expectations for this match. I thought that you have 10 women all, can work hard when they need to work hard. You have the power of Nia and Lash. You have the aerial tactics of Kyrie Io. You have just a badass in Asuka. Charlotte and Alexa work very well as a team. Becky, is good in these type of matches, right? Historically speaking, Becky's good in these plunder weapons, Hell in a Cell type of matches. And I'm just gonna be blunt about this. This might have been my most disappointing match this year. Of every match that I wanted to see or I was anticipating to watch, I think this let me down the most. And here's the weird part. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't good. Like it was meh. Like it's one of those matches that I can't critique anything. I know you have some spots that you were not fans of, and I will give you the opportunity to highlight those. Because, I want to be fair here. I didn't even
Yeah.
notice one of the ones you were talking about until recently. But it just didn't do anything for me. Like the match had no juice. Number one, baby faces having the advantage is dumb. And whoever books this, whether it's WWE or AEW, it's dumb. It should never be.
Never happened.
I, again, I've told this story before. I went to one of the first ever War Games matches. Now, it was a house show in Greensboro, North Carolina, so it never made air. It was just a house show War Games match when they did the touring War Games match one summer. But it's like, even though it was the exact same match I already saw on TV, it worked. Arn Anderson and Dusty Rhodes start. Then Tully Blanchard comes. Then Lex. Then it has a
You
mode
get juice from a babyface save every 5 minutes.
exactly. And the match only begins when it's called War. It was originally called War Games dot 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 the match beyond. So War Games is up until the 10th person enters the ring. Then when the 10th person enters the ring, it's called the match beyond because now it's sudden death. Anybody can win. I just, for the talent level that this cage match above me had, I don't know if I've ever been let down like this. Because again, I can't say any of the women were just bad in the match. I can't say any of the women were great in the match, except I thought the EO spot was one of the coolest spots I've seen all year because she did the front somersault and the way her legs kicked up in the air in the garbage can was a very cool visual. But it also felt like that this match was leading up to that, and that was the match. Like the match really was, we're gonna wait until everybody's in the ring, get Io with the garbage can, do the cute spot with AJ couldn't reach her, then Rhea lifted her up, jump on him. Becky's gonna get beat up in the end. But then I have another problem with the ending. Becky Lynch has already lost to AJ Lee once. Now she's lost to her twice. There's no Intercontinental title anymore. So what, if just gonna have a match? So I didn't like the booking of this match. I didn't like that the babyfaces had the advantage, and I hated that they won. I thought, okay, this is what's gonna happen. This was what my prediction was. You have this match, and then at the War Games match beyond part, Alexa turns. And that's why the
Something,
heel
right?
have the disadvantage because they always had the advantage and they outsmarted them and Alexa just turned and you saw pieces of her dark side coming out in this match, but then it didn't happen. Um, I am not a fan. Look, and I am not. Everybody knows how much I love EO. Everybody knows I'm a huge Alexa fan. I'm a huge Char Alexa fan. I'm a fan of these women. But I don't need dancing in a War Games match. I don't. I really don't. And I hated it on the men's side. And we don't talk about the men here, but it has to be a serious match with real stakes and violence and hatred and animosity. And
Or don't have it.
they had the blueprint for that with the Asuka, Kyrie, Rhea, Io being the we hate each other so much, let's get into War Games. But then why is everybody else involved? Like Becky's in this match for AJ. Charlotte and Alexa are in this match because Lash and Nia cost them the tag belts. But like it didn't feel like there was that much animosity between the competitors. The story was very neutered. Look, we don't critique the women to a degree of nonsense and ridicule because we are fans of all of these women. I am certainly a fan of all of them. I thought, oh, they're gonna make Lash this big star. That didn't work because she took the mist. And once you take the mist, you're kind of a comedy act at that point. Now she's fantastic. She has a lot of potential. She's gonna be really, really good. But it just, I don't know, the match had no juice to me and it just didn't work. And I'm not going to give it a grade, but if I could give it a grade, I think at best I would give it a 3 out of 10. I just don't think it was very good. And that's my diatribe.
Yeah, this match was painful for me. I think that there's a balance, unintended probably, of what we do this podcast to try to bring balance to the way these matches are looked at, especially for the women. But I got to be honest. I mean, for all the day one kind of balance sheet people, thank you. But we used to talk about it last year. What was the slogan? Steal the show like Mercedes and Pam. And this is where not having a Bailey in the match, I think, makes a difference. And women's wrestling has been better than men's wrestling for the most part for the last 10 years because women bring an urgency and a desire to prove themselves to wrestling that the men have long lost. And this match was wrestled the way men wrestle matches like this. We get a War Games match. We get it every year. What do you want to put together? Let's do a cool spot. The crowd will love it. There wasn't a whole lot of going out there to prove themselves. It wasn't put together in a way that would steal the show from the men. Um, whether you can do that production and booking wise or not, I know they get hamstrung, but the quality of work wasn't put together to steal the show from the men. Honestly, this was wrestled like the last basketball game before the All-Star break. Like that's the type of urgency I saw in this game. The All Star game's on Sunday, and we've got a game on Wednesday, and like, hey, let's just run fast breaks and no one get hurt. And I don't want anyone to get hurt, and I don't like dangerous spots, but I want a story. I want there to be hatred for this match to happen, and if they don't have it, don't do the match. Um, The work bothered me in a couple spots. The spot that you brought up, there's a moment where Alexa has just come in. Her and Charlotte kind of get a hot tag team thing going on, and they're beating up Becky. And they get Becky in the corner, and Charlotte's got her boot on Becky. And, cameraman's fault too. They zoom in on Becky's face. It's very apparent that Charlotte's putting no pressure on Becky, and she's not even pushing her into the fence, which is what I think they were trying to pantomime. But Becky's just squirming and flailing her arms. And I'm going to be honest, if I'm a 7-year-old kid at home who thinks wrestling's somewhat real, I just saw dad putting Christmas trees under the or Christmas presents under the Christmas tree, right? Like, oh, Santa's not real. Like it just wasn't good quality. And I was hoping for better than that. And I'm not trying to be hypercritical, but um, I could sit here and talk about how bad Jey Uso is for the product for 3 hours. We don't talk about that. I got a whole thing about what happened in the men's war game match, but I expect the women to be above it because these are Hall of Fame level. I think, what you got 9.
9 out of 10
You
women are going to the Hall of Fame in WWE.
right. And
Lash
then
is the one who maybe doesn't.
right, and Lash could be better, than half of them by it's all said and done. She just got here. Kyrie Sane is certainly a women's wrestling Hall of Famer. Whether she gets, as a Kabuki Warrior, she should be in the Hall of Fame. So there's no reason that this match shouldn't have been high quality. And I just think that they went for a little bit more fun factor over real over, this should not be a fun match. It should never be a fun match. And the EO spot was ruined for me by who WWE is and the way that they present things. You got Wade Barrett going, and this is the next viral moment. And it just takes me completely out of the match. I did love that she flipped, though, and how freaking talented is she to pull it off? I'm not taking anything away from that. Ballsy, right? To do that. But
Yeah.
I felt like none of the 10 women stood up and really pushed for a story that would have driven the match. And Bailey's probably one of the greatest of all time at making sure something like that happens. And this would be Exhibit A if I'm Bailey. I'd go to management and go, if I would have been in this match, it would have been better. Just saying,
So you
because she's
said
been left
some
out 100 times, so she needs to advocate for herself. Is the reason I say that.
you said something about 3 minutes back, which is actually the crux of why this match wasn't that good. If you go back and watch the first War Games matches for the women in NXT, the first couple, the Candice LeRae's, the Rhea Ripley's, the Biancas, the Ios, the Shayna Baszler's, those matches, Dakota Kai's, those women really worked with a chip on their shoulder because they got something for the first time, right? Hey,
Yep.
we are getting the women's war games. We're going to have to go out there and outdo the men because we're going to prove we are equal or better than they are. So we're going to never allow to be discriminated against and not get something. So those, if you go back and watch those first couple of women's war games matches, they were fantastic. The one with where Rhea and Candice basically beat everybody, but that was probably my favorite match of all of them. Where Dakota Kai turned, that
Yep.
one.
It's
That
so
one,
good. And
that
the
was
heels
great.
won, and the match it ends up being great, right?
It was a great match. I hate comparing the two women's divisions because I think that you need to have a WWE women's division that's super strong. And I think it will push Tony Khan and AEW to develop a more strong women's division on the AEW side. But when I watched the blood and guts match, and again, take the blood out of it because that's not why I thought the A and the AEW women's blood and guts match was better than this game match. I saw a sense of urgency with like those women might not collectively have the talent that these women do in terms of just repetition and match quality and acclaim. but they went out there like they had something to prove. Like they went out there and they said, you know what? This is the first one. We're gonna kill it. We're gonna put everything on the line. We're gonna do everything we can do to make sure that the crowd is into the match. B, they feel like there's a violence factor, and C, that we earned this spot. And again, to your point, and it's the point that is why I think this match didn't live up to a lot of expectations. This is what, the 10th women's war games match now, ninth, eighth.
Yeah.
It's at a point now where they're getting, both the men and the women are getting the war games match because it's a pay-per-view selling point. There is no real hatred stakes for a war game. People have to understand what the concept of war games. Why did Dusty Rhodes create war games? Okay, well, we're gonna go back here. When Dusty Rhodes got injured by the Horsemen, they locked him inside a cage and nobody could come in, and he got beat up. When he created war games, it's like, okay, JJ Dillon, you want to interfere? Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, you guys want to interfere? Great. We're going to put everybody in a cage where nobody can get out. And now we're going to get our way with the heels because guess what? You can't run, you can't cheat, you can't hide, you can't bring anything to the ring that we don't know about because we can bring it too. There was real hatred. Like, I remember going to the match as a kid when my cousins took me and thinking legitimately somebody might die because they hated each other that much. This is none of that, right? It's just a match to have a match to sell a pay-per-view. A pay-per-view, by the way, that they did not need this match to sell because it was John Cena's last pay-per-view match. So they were going to sell all of the 43,000 tickets no matter what. If I booked WWE, it'd be very simple. Men, you want the War Games? Have it. Women, you get the 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. And then it's different. Now you have a different pay-per-view, right? Because the women get a unique match. And I think if they had a 5-on-5 Survivor Series match, I think they'd have had one of the best matches in a long time for the women. Because all 10 of the women, you could see, like you said, you have the pecking order. You could
Yeah.
see, oh, how does Lash look in the ring with Io? How does this? How does that? And then who wins? Who? And to me, that's how I would have made Lash Legend the star. She'd have been the sole survivor. She'd have won the
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
And
And
you're done. You got it.
yeah. And we're agree with you completely. And for anyone who thinks we're advocating for less for the women, we love the 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. We both
Mhm.
grew up on it. And that's not to say that every single year the men get the war games and the women get that. But this particular year, you could have done the men's war games, 5-on-5 women's match. You could rotate it certain years. That way, whatever war games it is, that way when the women get their own war games match, it's got some novelty to it. At the end of the day, though, as critical as we are, it's really not the women. These are great, great, great performers, all 10 of them. WWE is a lazy storyline driven company right now. Like they're not putting nearly as much into the stories as we would want. Within the match, they're not producing any, they didn't really tell a story with this match. Um, it didn't end a feud, nor did it start a feud. You know what I mean? Like it's like where do you even go from here? They're just looking for the moments it creates. The EO trash can spot. Lash just threw EO into three people, like these clips that they are a internet clip driven company right now. That is what they care about the most. They care about something that an influencer can splice together for 10 seconds and go, look at this, we had a great match. Oh my god, EO jumped off the cage, we had a great match. And um I think the women deserve better story. I think they had the baseline for a great story in here. I love what they've been doing with Asuka and Kyrie, and then it kind of just got muted the last 2 weeks. So I was disappointed that what started why this War Games match happened did not make it into the War Games match. Is that fair to say that where we started a month ago is not even how they ended up in the ring really being the thing? And um, you
I'm
know,
never, yeah, I'm
they
never gonna.
they did
Sorry.
Damage control too. These heels, they have a whole set of heels now that come off kind of dangerous. And damage control, like the last time the heels won this match for the women,
I don't know if they've ever won this match.
except for the NXT one, right? When Dakota turned.
Yeah. But I don't, but they, no, 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 but they didn't even win that match.
Oh, you're right, they didn't.
No,
Super
that's what
Rhea,
I'm
right?
saying.
Super Scion
It was
Rhea
Rhea
just
beat everybody by herself. Yeah. So
oh man,
look,
you're right.
I don't think the heels have ever won the women's War Games match. I could be wrong, but even if, here's the thing though, the point of the War Games match is for the women, the heels not to win, but it's to be built up to that, where they finally get the heels their comeuppance in the finale, right? Or you can flip it and do what Blood and Guts did, which is the heels won because they're starting a story, not ending
Right,
the story.
right,
I'm not a fan of that either, but I we got to be fair here. I thought what I liked most about the AEW Blood and Guts match is there was a true strategy by the heels to win that match. Hey,
right.
we want to win the tag belt, so we want to weaken our opponents. Mercedes, you're in this as a hitman because we know you need to weaken Chris for your title match. So we're not all friends, but we have a common interest in doing certain things. So here's what I would say. The true match that needed a War Games, and it didn't need War Games, it just needed Hell in a Cell. Why not Asuka, Kyrie, Hell in a Cell versus Rhea and Io? What if you did that match? That would feel like juice to me because these teams legitimately, for the tag belts, hate each other, right?
Right.
They legitimately have lots of history and beef and Io and the and that's where I turn Kyrie is in that match locked inside a cage. She turns on Asuka. Rhea and Io in the titles. Everybody's happy. I could have done that. I understand, you got to get the Beckys, you got to get the AJs, you got to get Alexa, you got to get Charlotte, you got to get these women in the match, and I get that. It could have been better with 5-on-5 Survivor Series. Like I said, I'm just trying to be honest here. For my ex, and maybe I am to blame that for the caliber of women, I was expecting something out of this world and I got something else, and maybe that's my fault. But it didn't do anything for me.
One last thing, and we'll move on to the other
Hmm.
stuff that happened. For anyone who thinks we're being too critical, here's at the heart of my issue. Io Sky did not wrestle this match like she had a score to settle, beef, or that her feelings were hurt. Would you agree with that? There was not one story beat in this match where connected that Io lifelong friends who had her back that were family for her. And that was emotionally scarring for her. There was not one moment where it was like, they turn their back on me and I'm going to get revenge, or I'm going to wrestle with an edge and I want to beat them. None of that made it into the match. That is not Io's fault. That's bad production. That's bad story writing. And if they weren't going to do that, then don't do a War Games. If you're going to
Yeah.
do a War Games and the baby faces are going to win, the baby face at the core of the story was Io Sky. Asuka and Kyrie turned their back on her for her friendship with Rhea. She is the one who was scorned and hurt. And if you just watch this match, I don't even know that you would know that Asuka and Kyrie and Io had a story. Is that unfair to say? And so we're just
I
this leaves
I
you lacking.
I think if you watch this match and you know anything about wrestling or storylines or you don't watch the product, you're a casual fan, right? Like you hear, oh, these women that I used to care about 2 years ago are in this match. I'm gonna watch it. When I watched the match, here's what I saw. I didn't see any women who had any beef with anybody. I just saw 10 women having a match. And it's not Io, it's not Rhea, it's not Asuka, it's not Kyrie, it's not Charlotte, it's not Alexa. I just saw 10 women go out there and have a match. And it's like, you use the basketball analogy, I'll use my own. It's like you have those pickup games at the LA Fitness, and you have like Alexa, right? She wants to get a run on the court. So she sees Charlotte and she sees Io and she sees Rhea and she sees AJ and says, "Hey, us five, let's team up and there's the five that just won a game. Let's go on the court and have a game." And then at the end, they all walk away and it's like, "Oh, that was a great run," and they go their separate ways. That's what I got. I didn't
Yeah.
think anybody came across like there was any hatred. And again, I am using this example because when I think of women's cage matches, the thing that popped in my head, just like I don't know why it popped in my head, but it did. The Hell in a Cell match, and it's not my favorite women's Hell in a Cell match because we've covered that already on the show. Sasha Becky's my favorite Hell in a Cell match, women. But Sasha Bailey had something where when Sasha got the title, she had this torn, conflicted feel like, hey, that's my best friend. And yeah, it, I got my title and I finally won this match that I have not won because she was 0-2 going into that match for Hell in a Cell. But it cost me everything. I lost my best friend. But I got the title, right? And she had that real emotion when she was grabbing the title. I would have loved to seen something in this match if they had booked it better where Io's about to finish Kyrie off, right? Like Io's gonna go off the top with the garbage can and it's gonna hit just Kyrie and Asuka. But she literally is torn that she's gonna have to take them out. It's the Shawn Michaels, why Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair was a lot of people's match of the year in 2008 was when he did the "I'm sorry, I love you" and kicked him, right? You
Yeah.
felt it. None of that was in this match for any of the women. So again,
Yeah.
we're gonna go on, to the next match, but like to me, and this is more of a message to the WWE brass if they hear this, and I know somebody in that company listens to us, please get rid of War Games. Just get rid of it, put it away for 5 years, bring it back when there's a real need for a War Games match. Because if you're just doing it just to do it, it's not the Dusty Rhodes vision. It's not what he wanted out of the match. He wanted real stakes and real hatred and real violence, and we didn't get any of that. And that's okay too. So before we get to the women's title match, I want to point out something that was a history making thing about this pay-per-view. This is the first time ever that more women were featured on a WWE pay-per-view than men. Because
Yep.
in match number two, and I want to give kudos to John Cena for this, by the
I
way.
was, yeah,
John
100%.
Cena's last match, right, on pay-per-view against Dom. And people are like, why are they covering men's wrestling? Well, the reason is because three women played a very critical part in this match and were showcased, I thought, beautifully. And I could make a case that the three women in this match got more of a rub and a shine and a spotlight the correct way than either of the actual two women's matches that we
I was
had.
going to say that I actually agree with that. I think
So
the highlight for women on this card was this match.
So you have John Cena defending his Intercontinental title that he won 19 days ago against Dominic Mysterio in Dominic's hometown of San Diego. And obviously, he's coming out with Raquel and Roxanne, which he has never done before. So already you knew, okay, the Liv Morgan thing is real because these two are coming out like two people are going to get kicked out for interfering. So they come out, they're with Dom, they're having a match. And then I thought, honestly, one of the all-time great fake injury sell jobs in this match, where First off, when Cena did the spot to Dom, I legitimately was concerned for Dom. Like they fooled me. I was like, oh my
He
God. Like,
landed in a way that looked like he'd get
yeah.
hurt.
Yeah. I was like, oh, woo, this looks like the Penta spot, which we just saw. So, the camera is on Dom. Raquel and Roxanne are with him, like, are you okay? Are you okay? And then the camera goes in closer. That allows Raquel and Roxanne to disappear. And then all of a sudden, when the camera goes to Cena, he's getting the Tahana bomb by Raquel, which was fantastic. And then, Roxanne comes up to Cena and goes, "You can't see me, pop rocks." Boom. I thought that was great for both of them. I mean, they got a chance to be in John Cena's last ever pay-per-view match, those two women. And it's something that they can take with them, to their Hall of Fame speeches, because I just thought it was so cool for John Cena to say, yeah, let them get something over on me because this is the last time I'm going to be in a pay-per-view match. That was great. They get kicked out. So now the ref is knocked out. You hear "Watch me," Liv Morgan. Crowd goes crazy. Liv's coming out. She's running. She looks amazing. She's running to the ring. Hi, Chad. This is for you. And she, comes to the ring and she slaps Dom. And now everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute here. The tension with her and Roxanne is gonna start, her and Dom breaking up. But she did the Cena spot to Cena. She jumps in Cena's arms. Camera pans and she does the eyes that Cena does when he turned on Cody. And she did the exact same spot. She kicked him right in the groin, set him up for the 619. Dom does the 619, and then Liv does the belt shot that Cena did to Cody Rhodes. Then
Mm-hmm.
Dom does the frog splash, 1, 2, 3. Romeo and Juliet, as Wade Barrett calls them, of the WWE, are back. Crowds going crazy for this match. Liv looked amazing. Roxanne looked amazing. Raquel looked amazing. I thought all three women came across like big superstars. And to me, like I said, kudos to John Cena because nothing's going to happen if he doesn't sign off on it for sure. Kudos to him for allowing these three women to get a great spotlight on his last ever pay-per-view match. And to me, that is how you make somebody. And that was much better than anything I saw in the two actual women's matches. And this was, for me, the highlight of this show and what I'm going to remember from this show.
Yeah, I 100% agree on every point. For what we vouch for, I was the most heartened by knowing that these three got to be part of John Cena's match, and that is a sign of progress. I mean, I don't even know that you would have seen this, not 10 years ago, and probably not 5 years ago, right? So appreciate that John not only is trying to give to the men's locker room on his way out, but really highlighting a couple of the women here. Um, TV's just better with Liv Morgan back, man. It's great to get her back. Um, I think she's one of the better in-ring storytellers in the world. Facial expressions, all that stuff. So, certainly going to be interesting. Um, I think Roxanne's going to end up with the IC title. I don't know that anyone would dispute that. So, do we get Liv Morgan, Roxanne at WrestleMania? Would be my bet at this point. Um, early bet in the clubhouse. It's the first time they wrestle. I think it could be the best women's match on the card.
On
I don't.
WrestleMania?
Yes. And hear me out real quick. If it turns into they fight each other in February and it's a blow off match, I still think it could be a very, very, very good match. But I think crowds respond very, very well to like the first official time people fight. And I think that Liv and Roxanne are both good enough. Obviously, um, probably have wrestled together behind the scenes plenty of times, and I know that they're capable of putting on a great, great, great match. But I feel like if it's the first time the fans are seeing the two of them kind of come together, I feel like there'd be some extra juice there, and they would have a chance to have the best match because the talent level is that high, and the story would be perfect. That the breakup happens just enough in a way that that's the first match. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I definitely think they'll have a really good match when they have the match because they have similar like body types, and I think they could do stuff with each other, and I think they can go out there like the thing about Roxanne, Roxanne is really, really good at getting a lot out of her opponents. Like she's had great matches with much greener women than Liv Morgan is. And Liv Morgan's like actually a great professional wrestler. So I could see that. I wouldn't bet against it. I would have to see what the card looks like. And I think, speaking of WrestleMania, we didn't touch on it, but the women had their own ad, right? Which it blew the men's ad completely out of the
So
water,
so much so
right?
much better. Yeah.
It looked like a high-end production. And it felt like a WrestleMania thing, like a spot. The men just felt like they threw it together. I will say this, I think this is going to be the first WrestleMania. This is my prediction where the men and women have equal time. I'm not saying the women are going to main event because I heard what Uncle Dave said the two main events are, and honestly, one of those main events should not be the main event. So he said Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes 3. That will main event. No question. That will main
Right.
event. The other main event is CM Punk versus Braun Breaker. That should open a card. That should not main event. That should not be the last match I see because it's obvious Braun Breaker is going to win the title. And if he's going to win the title, then he shouldn't main event because to me, and I am a bigger Steiner fan than most humans walking the earth. I can legitimately say that I am one of the biggest Steiner Brothers fans you'll ever find. I've watched every match of theirs, and I like Braun Breaker a lot. But if he's main eventing over Rhea Ripley, I have a big problem with that in 2025 because he is not a bigger star than Rhea Ripley. He's not a bigger star than Io. He is not a bigger star than Becky. He is not a bigger star than AJ. He is not a bigger star than Alexa or Charlotte or a bunch of other women. So in 2025, he's not main event ready for WrestleMania. Now in 2027, I could change my mind. But in 2025, I feel like he should open the show with Punk. And I don't think Punk would have a problem with that because Punk's already got his main event, quote unquote, like the what he wanted. I think I would open with Breaker Punk. I would main event a women's match on night one, and then I will let Cody and Roman have their part 17, um,
Yeah,
main event part two.
real quick comment on that. I think you're right. We're going to get more women. We should get more women's matches than ever on the Mania card. They're just better. They're deeper than the men. Um, okay, so John Cena is going to be gone, right? You
Yeah.
just named Cody, Roman, CM Punk, Braun Breaker.
Yeah.
Outside of that, okay, so Gunther's going to be on the card, very much deservedly so.
Gonna fight Lesnar.
Going to fight Lesnar, unfortunately. Um, Drew McIntyre just lose like he just like what juice is there to have him on the card? They've kind of just turned him into a loser.
Feels like
I'm
he's
not
fighting.
saying Drew McIntyre's, but from a on TV standpoint, like he just loses every match. Yeah, but I'm sure they'll have him on the card. Jey Uso will be on the card. It's pretty thin, man. It's pretty thin. Uh, Bronson Reed will be on the card, separate of Braun. And Bronson's work's been really good. But yeah, it's
Bronson's been, yeah. I can make a case Bronson has been the better worker of the two Bronze,
how
but he's
how about
clearly not on there pushing.
this? December usually gets slow in the wrestling world, and storylines kind of grind to a halt. We'll probably promise our listeners a early pre Royal Rumble WrestleMania card prediction for the women. Because I think that'll be fun, and I think five, six, 7 matches. You think 7 matches is possible?
I do. I'm just gonna throw pie in the sky. Liv Roxanne, I think it's a match. I'm predicting Bianca Belair is winning the Royal Rumble and fighting Jade Cargill. That's number two. I think you're gonna get a some Becky, I guess Becky Stephanie Vacour on paper seems like the match. I think you have to have a Rhea Io blow off match at WrestleMania or Kabuki Warriors versus Asuka, or sorry, Kabuki Warriors versus Rhea and Io for the tag
I
belts.
just don't know who's the heel in a Rhea EO blow off. I don't know that it's
I
good
don't
for
know
either to be a heel.
who is the heel in Shawn Michaels Undertaker. Part two. Part two, not part one. Part one, Michaels played the heel.
Deshaun, yeah, yeah,
To me, I think the way I would book Rhea, Io, I would have Rhea and Io main event night one. And
yeah.
this is the simple stakes. If Rhea wins, she finally beats Io. If Io wins, Rhea retires. Then you know Rhea's going to win. So it kind of takes a little bit of sting out of it. But I think if they told the correct story, it could be like Rhea's like, if I can't
Why
beat
would
you,
EO want Rhea to retire though? You know what I mean? Like that's the
fair.
part they have to get
I
to.
guess yeah, you have to get to that. Or you could do a title for you could do title for career. I don't know. You could do something. But to me, I think you have to get a Charlotte Alexa match at Mania because they're keeping them together, right? So if they're going to keep them together, then just do the match at Mania and let Charlotte, kind of get her win Mania strong. A lot of people think the best singles match Alexa Bliss ever had was against Charlotte. And I think Alexa's a much better worker today than she was back then. And I
Yeah,
think Charlotte's as crisp as she's been in a long time. So I think you could get something out of that. There's some juice there. I would love to see Asuka versus Kyrie at WrestleMania, even if it's for 12 minutes. I think that would be good. I think Becky and AJ have to be on the card somewhere. I mean, I think Stephanie, maybe AJ versus Nikki Bella. I don't know, but like I think there's a room to me, I think for you know what? I'm gonna put it out there. Screw it. Night one, women, night two, men. Just do it. Don't intertwine it. Night one, women, night two, men. Let's just do it.
I don't think they'd ever do it because what would they even do if the women outshine the men? Like if more people watched.
Okay,
Um,
so you're right. If Vince McMahon was running WWE, I would say, yeah, you're right. Vince probably doesn't want that, right? But here's my counter to that. It's not to you. It's into anybody who says that. You have the CW president who's paying a lot of money for NXT. Oh, probably not. He could have probably paid more with the ratings they've gotten, saying the women are better than the men. He's
yeah,
coming out and saying the women are better than the men. The people I know who work at Netflix have told me that the women consistently on their Netflix minutes worldwide outdraw the men. Shawn Michaels says that for every one guy who's good in NXT, five women are as good. And Triple H is saying it too. And CM Punk is saying it too. So are we just now kind of past that whole protecting the men look good or whatever
I got
point?
no reason to protect the men. I just don't trust them to.
Because everything I'm hearing from people who are in power of this company are telling me that the women are not only equal, but in some cases have surpassed them. Last night, what did Wade Barrett say? He goes, maybe the biggest wrestling star in the world, Rhea Ripley. And then Michael Cole says the best wrestler pound for pound on the planet is Io Sky. So they're telling you on one hand that one of the biggest stars is a woman and the best wrestler is a woman. Well, to me, then at this point, give them their own night. Just make night one about the women, night two about the men. People are going to buy tickets for both. People are going to critique both. People are going to love both. People are going to hate both. Who cares? Do it that way so you can get seven women's matches on night one and give them their time and give them their production and give them their kind of stage. And look, you know what? This is the challenge to the men. If you're afraid that the women are going to outshine you, then perform better.
Yeah,
Perform better. So
yep.
that's my diatribe. Okay, so let's get to match number three, which is the final women's match on this card. It's Stephanie Vacour defending her women's world title against Nikki Bella, the newly minted heel Nikki Bella. Um, this was a match, right? Like it was a good professional wrestling television match from the standpoint that Nikki did everything she could to get heat on Stephanie Vacour, to get heat on herself as a heel. And Stephanie Vacour was supposed to win this match and win it clean and win it strong because that's the story they're obviously telling. I gotta be honest here. I don't want to see a rematch between these two because Nikki lost so clean. Like there
Right.
is no reason for a rematch. What did you think of the match? Let's just put it out there. What did you think of the match?
Yeah, I mean, I was hopeful. I thought Nikki boots to Paris, and I thought that she had that match didn't come together the way um we wanted it to when we talked about it on that episode. Um, but I thought if that version of Nikki had shown up, and it's different, right? She's got to work a heel a style in this match, and she was able to work a babyface style in that match. So it just I just think that no one actually believed that Stephanie was going to lose the title. That's always tough. It hinders it hinders any match. Um, I don't need to see a rematch. Um, Nikki's kind of gone around the circuit at this point. She lost the IC title. She's lost the world title, or lost a chance at the IC title, lost a chance at the world title. Um, I presume she'll still be in Royal Rumble. I would like to see them do some things with her that maybe do matter to her and her career. And like, I love the idea of her and AJ just because that's a meaningful thing to the people. That's meaningful for AJ fans. It's meaningful for Nikki fans. They're, and maybe Nikki wins one of those matches. I, you know, I just took a shot at Drew McIntyre. I, I just don't like having people in title matches who don't win matches. That is a huge pet peeve of mine. Um, And Nikki just hasn't won enough matches, right? And so if they want us to take Nikki seriously, this has nothing to do with the performer. Again, this is a writing thing. She should be winning matches on Raw. God knows they have time to put her out there for 10 minutes and have her beat, have an NXT person come up for a minute and have her beat them. Have her beat not Ivy Nile anymore because she's a heel, but so she turned heel, have her beat up someone, have her win a match.
Or beat Stephanie McCourt in a non-title match.
I mean, yeah, she's Nikki Bella. She's
You
allowed to
know,
beat
like
Stephanie.
how Nikki Bella beat Stephanie in a non-title match where she turns heel, and that's what caught Stephanie off guard. It's interesting you bring up people who don't win matches going for titles. How about I interest you in a one-up? Do you know before Maxine Dupree won the Intercontinental title, how many singles wins in her career she had before that win?
I think the answer is one, and that was her second win ever. Like actual win, right?
2023, she won a singles match. She did not win another singles match with a pinfall until she beat, not just me saying it, but Sports Illustrated says it, the best women's wrestler ever. That's also part of this problem. Somebody who's never won a match for 2 years then beats Becky Lynch. I know it's supposed to be the Cinderella, the fluke. I know the story they're going for. The story, as you say, the story beats they're going for. But I just don't love it. I'm just not a big fan. But back to so what are your thoughts were this was just a match?
It was just a match. It could have been the main event of Raw. Um, I guess what I'm saying is if they're going to turn Nikki heel, but not put any teeth on it's going to lower the ceiling of what these two women are able to accomplish. You know, shit. I would have had, there's a world where Nikki loses this match
Oh,
by DQ and she just violently goes in on Stephanie and just says F it and just gets DQ'd but beats Stephanie up. They're doing nothing to make people care about Stephanie beyond that move.
that's a
They're not doing a
great
lot to.
That's why we've done over 100 episodes now. I'm so thank you for the baton. My problem with this match is not Nikki Bella, actually. I actually thought Nikki Bella did her part. She tried and tried and tried to make this match, you know, be something. I think Stephanie Vacour is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, but the current way they use her, I will never know that. She has become a one-trick pony, and it's sad because she's a phenomenal wrestler. She really is. And I mean, look, there's nobody who's a bigger fan of Stephanie, her appearance, than me. I will readily admit that when she's on my screen, I do not watch anything else. But fair is fair. This is a wrestling podcast. This is not, America's Next Top Model. Stephanie Vacour is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, and now they have trained the audience to care about one of her moves, and
Yep.
that's it. And that's a big problem because you're Nikki Bella, you're trying to get heat, you're trying to get heat, you're trying to get the crowd into the match, and all the crowd's doing is this. And when they see her do this, they all come up and they go crazy. And she had to do it twice in this match to make the crowd care, right? She does it on the announce table, but she surprised everybody. So they didn't get a chance to really, as they say, goon the way they normally do. And then she had to do it again in the ring. And I I feel like the story for me with Stephanie Vacour is she's got to turn heel. And she's got to turn heel and not give the people what they want. She has to almost to steal a gimmick from the early 2000s. She should be right to censor. If I were booking Stephanie Vacour, I would have her come out dressed in black dress pants, a black dress shirt, and she shows nothing.
Yeah.
You guys in the crowd, you get nothing. She could be the hottest heel in the world. She could be the hottest women's heel in the world if she takes away what everybody wants to see from her. And there is your money. And then when she goes back to being Stephanie Vacour and does the Devil's Kiss, she'll get the biggest pop in the world. That's the only story they can tell with her at this point because they have set the audience up that they only care about one move. And while it is the most over move in wrestling, and it's always good to have that in your hip pocket, I just think you're selling the competitor and the professional wrestler short. Now, to be fair, she might listen to this and say, I'm a complete moron. And like, you know what? I'm making more money than I've ever made. I have more star power. I'm making more notoriety. I'm on posters. I'm doing interviews with all these different platforms. I'm getting Maybelline deals. I'm getting modeling contract, whatever. So she could give a crap and say, you know what? The bank account's cooking. I've done my time on the indies. I'm making and fine. If she's happy, I'm happy for her. But as a
Yeah.
fan of her, I just think that they're selling her short.
No, I agree. And it's funny is if you listen to last week's podcast, if you guys don't know this by now, so AEW, we got them over here, and they rely on violence too much. They rely on high spots too much. Um, the story suffers, and the crowd is trained to only care about when someone gets dropped on their head. And then all the way over here on the other side, you've got WWE, who, you got Stephanie, we only care about Devil's Kiss. EO, they're waiting for the thing. Um, Jey Uso, they're yeeting during a War Games match. And it's like we're yelling at this cloud over here and we're yelling at this cloud over here. And we just kind of want a really good match in the middle. It's kind of what we want. You know what I mean? And the moments are great sometimes, and the violence is great sometimes, but for the most part, I think most fans want good matches with good stories. And both companies have their crutch that they lean on, entertainment and viral moments, and high spots and violence on the other side. So
But
you
you
try
can
to be
get both.
fair.
You can get both, right? Because we got that with the Evolution pay-per-view where you got the EO doing this, and you got this, but you got her and Rhea having a killer, classic in the main event. You had the women's four-way tag match that gave you the Charlexa title reign, but the match was great. You had a legend in Trish Stratus come back and fight kind of the new guard in Tiffany. You had Stephanie Vacour win the battle royal to get the title match. Like you had all the stories in Evolution and you had really good matches, right? That's why Evolution is probably when we do our end of the year list going to be I'm going to spoiler alert, it'll be my pay-per-view of the year because it's the only pay-per-view this year that held my attention from start to finish. And it wasn't just because it was all women. I just thought they told great stories in the ring. And
Yep.
I think having ESPN and WWE, I know a lot of people don't love the partnership. I'm actually the other way. I like it for a lot of different reasons. Like, I think it's cool that I wake up in the morning and part of my daily routine, like every other person has a daily routine, is I watch Get Up. Unless my team isn't playing well, then I don't, to avoid the negativity. But like, I see Mike Greenberg randomly up Io Sky, did this on Raw. I'm like, what is this? And then Alexa Bliss,
Right.
I'm like, Alexa Bliss is on Get Up. And he brings Joe Tessitore in on Mondays and Joe Tessitore or on Tuesdays, and Joe Tessitore recaps Raw. And I think that's really cool. And then you go to get our first take and you see Dom on with Stephen A. Smith, or you see Mad Dog with Paul Heyman, doing a routine. And I think that's cool. But the other problem with the ESPN is ESPN is a highlight company in a lot of ways. And they want the highlights. And so to your point, it's about the clip, it's about the viral moment. And it's about watching things, vertically and not horizontally now. And I think that that's not great for professional wrestling fans.
Yeah.
And last night was exactly what I don't love about the TikTok gentrification of wrestling. Not everything should be a 12-second clip. I want to see the match. It's kind of like watching Red Zone. I don't really watch Red Zone as a football fan because I want to actually watch the whole game, not, just what happens from the red zone on.
That's a
So
great, yeah, that's a great analogy. They're building
that's,
it for like a red zone type
yeah,
consumer.
they're building us to watch parts of a match, not the whole match. And that's why I wonder, how many more matches, like the matches when we talk about what we're thankful for, are we going to get during this ESPN era if all they're going for is the highlight, right? Like you tell me Stephanie Vacour and Io are two of the best wrestlers in the world, gender aside, then let them go out there and do it. Like Stephanie Vacour is an amazing professional wrestler. She's better than 99% of that roster if she's given the opportunity. Like I could make a real argument that after Io, I don't know if anybody is definitively better in the ring than Stephanie on, in as a wrestler, but the way
In
they're
WWE.
in WWE, yes, in WWE, I don't think definitively anybody other than Io is better than Stephanie, but I don't also think they're doing anything to prove that point to me. Because if
Yeah.
I were to just watch TV every week, I wouldn't think Stephanie's a top five women's wrestler. I would last night, if you just watch the work, I'm not talking about who's actually better. Alexa Bliss looked like a better professional wrestler than Stephanie Vacour. That's the truth.
Yep. Yep. Um, and
So
she got into WWE by keeping up move for move with Mercedes. So we know she can go at the highest level. We just want to see more of that. Okay, so some things happen outside of WWE in the week that we want to recap. This was a taped event, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it, especially after our top five women who've never won the world title. We have a new woman who has never won the world title, who now has won a world title. Um, Lee Ying Lee from TNA, who most people would remember as Xia Li from WWE, beat Kalani Jordan in Madison Square Garden she beat Kalani Jordan and Jordan Grace in a three way. to take Kalani's TNA Knockouts championship. So she's a first-time world champion, and what's really cool is she is the first Chinese-born world champion, really in wrestling. Um, and there's a really cool story that Tommy Dreamer told about how WWE did some events in China, and they recruited 20 or so athletes, men and women, from various fighting sports in China to try to teach them to be wrestlers, and she's the last one left. Everyone else has moved on and is no longer in wrestling, and that doesn't mean no longer in wrestling in WWE. Like they are no longer in wrestling. They did not make it. They're not doing it anywhere else, and so it's really cool to see her win the world title. I thought that was a cool moment. Um, be interesting to see what they do with it. I think she's going to have a match with Danny Luna, but they're kind of giving her a babyface moment as she's the one who brought the title back to TNA. So what did you think? Did you get a chance to did you see the finish
I
even?
did.
Okay.
I did. I watched. I actually did watch the match. I'm very happy for her. I thought I know aesthetics isn't everything about wrestling, but I just thought she had something in WWE, and they just
Yeah.
never pushed her or like properly pushed her. And I don't know if it's because like, well, we have Io and we have Kyrie and we have Asuka and we have, so, I don't know. I don't know. Like when I watch her and I look at her, I see somebody who could be a big star. Like I like she has a charisma to her that I like.
Moves very fluidly, very athletic.
Yeah.
For some of her time has been a green worker, but as with anyone, she gets better. Flashy kicks. I mean, in a roster where she it's not about putting down any of the other women on the roster, but I think there was some upside there that they didn't capitalize on. So it's cool to see her kind of getting the baton in TNA, and hopefully, you know, um, she's got a chance to raise her profile in the wrestling world with this run. So
Yeah, I'm happy for her. I thought the match was good. It wasn't like it was a good match. I think Kalani Jordan is actually one of the up and coming stars in women's wrestling, and I think she's going to be a big star. And I'm very happy that she put Leah over, and I hope Leah gets a good run. And I think TNA does a lot with their women's division, and TNA is, if we're being honest here, in North America at least, they're the harbinger of the women's evolution. I mean, the stuff that Kong and Gail Kim were doing
yeah,
and Shimmer, along with Shimmer, is what kind of laid the seeds and the groundwork for the NXT women's revolution. I'm happy. Here's what I want to see out of TNA. I want to see TNA be an independent. Like I know they have the partnership with WWE and it's big for them. I don't want to see WWE talent hold TNA belts, quite honestly.
I
Like
don't either.
I'd like to see the TNA women and men hold the belts and feud with TNA. Like if they're gonna feud with WWE people, then they should win. They shouldn't lose the belts to WWE people just for that NXT exposure. 'Cause you can put a TNA person on NXT TV and have them win. There's no rule against it.
I like the way that they did with Jordan. When Jordan was TNA champion, she was on WWE TV as a force herself. That was a real rub that I thought was
Yeah,
good.
yeah, that was good. So I'm happy for her. I'm always happy to see women and men in this business who kind of get discarded and build themselves back up and become something. I mean, you talked about him earlier being kind of a loser at this point in terms of his win-loss record, but people forget Drew McIntyre was kind of discarded and kicked to the curb as a failure in WWE and reinvented himself on the independents and came back and is a main eventer. I mean, he beat Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania. I know it was during COVID, but he still did that. And
Right.
not everybody can say they've done that. So that's a big,
For 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 any Drew fans who I offended earlier, let me extend a compliment. It came out recently that he was about to go on a Japan run before WWE re-signed him. I think he would have been one of the most over people to ever work in Japan. I mean, like you talk about the top list of the Gaijin. I think he would have been like main event Wrestle Kingdom huge over there. And so when I say he's booked like a loser, I'm not saying he's a loser wrestler. I'm just saying that they've let him get into a main match. Like he lost to Roman 5 times. He's lost to Cody 5 times. I mean, it's just the same old when he gets into a big
You
match.
think who do you think are the biggest gaijin male stars in Japan ever? Number one is obvious, right? Stan Hansen. There's
Stan
no
Hansen for sure.
number two is Bruce.
Vader number two.
Vader is probably three or four. Hogan was very big in Japan, very
Yeah,
big in Japan. So those would be my Mount Rushmore of American workers in Japan. You know who was really big in Japan? The Steiner brothers. Steiner brothers are huge in Japan. So
yeah,
yes, but I agree with you. Drew has the aesthetic and the look and of course, how could I forget him? Kenny Omega. But
yeah.
yes, I agree. I think Drew would have been phenomenal in Japan. I think Drew's actually
AJ Styles too. We'd be remiss. So
Styles, yep.
yeah, there's a great list.
Finn
Drew.
Balor, Finn
I
Balor.
think I think the reason why you went to Stan and Hulk and Vader though is because Kenny, AJ, even Jericho and Balor, they were revered as workers. There's a version of that American heavyweight that's larger in life over there that works a certain style, and that's where Drew would have fit in. He would have fit into that lineage of an American monster who just like crushes people. He would have been perfect for it.
I mean, to me, it starts with the reason I say Stan, the Larry Hansen is because Stan Hansen was making so much money in Japan that he's probably the only American wrestler ever that had such a loyalty to Japan. And this is, people love when I do my history bit, so here it goes. He was the AWA World Champion. He beat Rick Martel for the title. He was asked to drop the title to Nick Bockwinkel. He wouldn't do it because it would hurt his reputation in Japan. So he actually laid the AWA belt on his driveway and drove over it with his truck and sent it back in the mail to AWA because he said his loyalty is only to Baba, who was his promoter in Japan. Stan Hansen is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I love Stan Hansen, and honestly, I want to see a women's version of Stan Hansen, like somebody who just kills everybody and beats them with like a clothesline, like a move that you don't really treat as a finishing move. That's why the JBL homage to him was really cool for me as watching JBL. But okay,
Megan Bain.
Megan Bain.
Yeah,
Yes, Megan Bain would be perfect. I would be all in
already killing it in
on
Japan.
Megan Bain being, but here's the thing. And this is a compliment to Megan Bain. She's a really good looking woman. I never looked at Stan Hansen as like aesthetically pleasing,
Yeah.
right? Megan Bain looks amazing. I don't know if she can pull off having tobacco dripping out of her mouth and clotheslining people. Because have you ever seen the movie No Holds Barred?
I have, yeah. Zeus
Stan
and
Hansen,
yeah,
he's in that movie.
he is. Um, so speaking of, we're kind of Megan Bain. Hater obviously has the Haterade clothesline. So, we got some hosses over on the AEW side. So to move over that way, um, kind of a resetting of the table week after Full Gear. It looks like Mercedes will be moving on to some sort of TBS feud because she was not on the show. But the development is that Chris seems like she'd be moving towards a feud with Thekla based on what happened on Collision. Um, and so they're not going to double tap that match with a match at World's End, is what it looks like, unless they're trying to swerve us and something happens on Dynamite this coming week. So we've got that Chris versus Triangle of Madness, Thekla on more Triangle of Madness business. Um, some people were surprised they lost to Harley and Willow. And Willow and Harley moved on in the women's tag title tournament. this was a surprise because most people think Tony and Mina are moving on as well. And would you do a face versus face match for the title at World's End?
I don't
So
think so. I think they're losing.
they're losing. I've recalibrated my thought based on it, and I think you're going to have Harley and Willow. Tony turned the upcoming match into a street fight, so it'll be Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir versus Tony and Mina in a street fight. I don't know how Tony Khan can book Marina freaking Shafir and Megan Bayne to lose a street fight to Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa. Love Tony and Mina, but you'd be doing a dastardly disservice to what Marina and Megan are booked as for them to lose a no hold barred type match.
I I have a problem with this setup. I know you had a big problem with the stipulation being brought into a tournament because you're like, well, they're going for the belts. It should just be classic matches, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Here's my problem. You know what I hate in professional wrestling? Dumb baby faces.
right.
I am sorry, but when I watched that whole segment, Tony Storm came across to me like a dumb baby face. Of all the women on the AEW roster you want to have a street fight with, you're picking Marina Shafir, who's a legitimate cage fighter, and Megan Bayne, who's known as like the Pegasus or the Megasus, sorry. Like she's Hercules, she's She-Ra, right? For those who want a comic book reference.
Right.
Why on you know what the match should be? Professional. It should be no, it should be professional wrestling, like 2 out of 3 falls. Like it should be a wrestling match to try to beat these two, not a street fight. It's dumb, and they're gonna
So,
lose because of it.
yeah. And maybe we're going to get a Tony Storm kind of goes crazy because a little bit of hubris from Tony. I guess, she won Hollywood Ending. And so, she's tough and all that. But even if you want to say that Tony's the greatest, you know, her ingenuity allows her to be the best no rules fighter that they have. Like you could see her believing that because she won the Hollywood Ending. It's a tag match. There's no way you can sell that Mina is not a weak link in this match, right? And so Tony, as a teammate, should have been protecting, hey, what's a good match that my teammate would operate well in? And this is the opposite of that. There's nothing that says that Mina should be able to hold up versus Megan or Marina in a match like this. And on top of it, Marina's part of a group that is known for cheating. So you're literally handing them all the cards. It is a very dumb baby face move.
It was dumb, and it feels like to me Harley and Willow are winning the tag belts. And
And you
and
know
that's
what? I love that team actually.
yeah, I'm fine with it. They dress the part. They look like a team. Um, they're fun. People like them. And I think Harley pinning Marina Shafir or Megan Bayne is gonna be that, did you believe in miracles? Yes. Like I think they have a real moment there. So I have no problem with it. I guess if they're trying to recreate Tony and I guess Mariah May slash Blake Monroe with Mina, it's gonna miss the mark for me. Um, it's gonna miss the mark for me, but that's what they're gonna
Right.
do because they're gonna go back to what works. So speaking of Mercedes, she does have a match coming up on Ring of Honor
She
pay-per-view,
does.
on the Honor Club as they call it, and I guess it's the rematch against Red Velvet for the Ring of Honor TV title, which now Mercedes is the sole proprietor and owner of. And, obviously, I thought they had a really good TV match the first time in Boston. And I think Red Velvet's a star on the rise. So I definitely think this match will be really good. But you had a Mercedes pop culture analogy that I do not even know what you're going to say. And I purposely told you not to tell me before that we
Yep.
recorded because I want to be surprised by this. So I'm going to give you the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is going to hit somewhere near and dear to your heart, because it's something that you care about a lot, just like I do from growing up. And so I'll start here. I've been backing my man Cade Cunningham as the 2028 Olympics. There's a version of the world where Cade is kind of the team captain, runs the floor. You may have a couple of the vet guys like Kevin Durant and all that, but from the young guard, he may be the most trusted American guy with the ball when we get to those Olympics. And talking about best players in the world, you and I had this conversation. Cade is not the best player in the world, but you could start to say, is he the best, American player in the world? Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, best players in the world are not from America at
Hmm.
this point. I think we decided that four of the five best players in the world were not American, right? For those that don't know, SGA is Canadian.
Hmm.
Um, you
Oakville,
know,
Ontario in the house. Yes.
yep, exactly. Obviously, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic,
Giannis.
and then you got Wemby. So more and more, the best players in America or the best players in the NBA are not American. So here's my analogy, and I'm not comparing the level of cultural significance, but I'm saying within the world of what they're trying to accomplish, it's very similar. Players made it to the NBA because the Dream Team created a phenomenon with a global boom to grow the game of basketball
Hmm.
broader than the American borders throughout the world. So a player like Luka Doncic and a player like Nikola Jokic, a lot of that can be traced back to what the Dream Team did in Barcelona in 1992.
Hmm.
And for those of you who don't understand what Mercedes is trying to accomplish by working the independent scene, it's a very, very similar thing. And here's the best way to describe it. She's working backwards. As a star, she's working backwards. She hit the highest stage and she's working backwards and trying to broaden, for women's wrestling, the amount of jobs, the amount of opportunities, and frankly, the reach of the game.
Hmm.
1992 was not the first Olympics dominated by the men's basketball team. In fact, Michael Jordan had already competed in the Olympics, correct? But he had
Yeah,
done so
84.
he had done so in the normal fashion of college, Olympics, NBA. Barcelona and Dream Team was impactful because you had star players working backwards, almost giving back to the game. And so the analogy for me is the things that Mercedes is working to accomplish right now, we won't even fully know the impact of until many, many years down the road. She's working WPW Winnipeg Pro Wrestling, House of Glory shows in New York, multiple House of Glory shows, Rev Pro UK, Bestia Wrestling in Italy. There are very likely women, girls that are having the opportunity to watch her wrestle in areas that they never would have seen her wrestle that are going to get the wrestling bug and think, man, I can do that one day. And that's happening on WWE TV. That's happening on NXT. That's happening in AEW. But she's turning the light on in more places and bringing it to like a front row capacity. Um, and even if it's not specific girls that watched her wrestle, going to create a world where a WPW has more spots for women to wrestle. House of Glory just had their number one women's card ever with the most women's representation on the card that um, Mercedes wrestled Nor Diana Phoenix. So that was a really, really great connection for me. She's really chasing long term, impactful ramifications for women in trying to grow the game and working backwards. And she's choosing to do so. And the difference is, most of the men out there working the indies are not doing so because they chose to work backwards. They were not given much of a choice. No offense to some of the guys doing that. Um, she's choosing to be in those spaces. She didn't lose her job, and that's all she can do. So um I think that we're going to find in 10 years and 15 years time we're going to be able to trace some wrestlers back to having seen Mercedes out on the independent scene. And I think the independent scene for the long term is going to be a much stronger place for women because of what she's done.
Okay. So I like it and I'm with you. So I'm gonna add to your analogy here because I did not know you were where you were
You didn't.
going. It hit me on okay. So I like your dream team analogy, but I'm gonna use it this way. Could you make this case? The four horsewomen as a collective are the dream team, right?
Hmm.
They're the ones who opened everybody's eyes to this beautiful sport of women's wrestling, right? The GQ
Yep.
article, the ESPN article. Okay. Now, I'm going to now take Mercedes and I'm going to put her in this category and I'm going to compare her to somebody. So, a shout out to my friend Sean Menard. He's from Toronto. If you don't know who Sean Menard is, he directed the movie called The Carter Effect. It was on Netflix a while ago. It was about the effect that Vince Carter had on Canadian basketball. Okay. Mercedes effect, which is she's singular in this run and has had the impact on independent wrestling, right? Where the Dream Team, they opened it up with the four horsewomen to everybody. Then Vince Carter said, okay, like all of the influx of Canadian basketball players that are in the NBA now directly tie to Vince Carter,
Yep.
nobody else. Because Vince Carter was the first, he was not, he's, first of all, he's from Orlando, Florida. So he's not from Canada, but he felt like ours because he was the first big basketball star we had. The Raptors started in 1995. He got drafted in 1998, but he was like our first star that represented with Toronto on his chest to American audiences. And he was such a big star. Like people forget how big a star Vince Carter was. He was outselling in jerseys Kobe Bryant in 2000. He was getting more all-star votes. He was a bigger TV draw than anybody, even including Kobe and Shaq, because of the way he dunked, right? And I look at Mercedes individually as the Carter effect, but I look at the four horsewomen as the dream team.
Great, great add on
So,
to it.
so that's how I look at it because I feel like what Mercedes is doing, you're gonna have you're gonna have a documentary in 20 years about her, and it's gonna be how the independent women's wrestling scene saw a boom because of her singular being on all these
Yeah.
shows.
Yep. And
So I think
yeah,
both of them are true.
yeah. No, that's a great add on to it. The thing I continue to think about, and if you got, if you're not an NBA fan, Luka Doncic, played for Dallas Mavericks, plays for the LA Lakers now. Luka was the MVP at a very young age of the Euro League, and it's crazy now to think that he wasn't picked first. But essentially, the Dream Team created a world where the competitiveness of the Euro League is NBA, G League adjacent, NBA light. It very much prepares you for the NBA as much or more so than college basketball does. It's real basketball. The teams can play. In fact, many would say that they play a more team oriented game together with passing and whatnot. But that's why USA didn't win the gold in 2004. That was the first wave of the Dream Team boom. But the longer term impact of the Dream Team is babies that were born in the late 90s and early 2000s. Their parents were like, yeah, you should play basketball. And that's, Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic, and they're, some of the best players in the NBA. Victor Wembanyama. I mean, these were paths that weren't existing pre Dream Team.
Yeah, Dirk Nowitzki, has been the international player that said that if he never saw the dream team, he would probably have ended up trying to be a soccer player or a tennis player because, Boris Becker, Steffi Graf, were kind of his heroes growing up. But then he saw Michael Jordan and he saw the dream team, and then it's like, oh, basketball is a thing, right? And he was
Yeah.
really the first international star that was impacted by the dream team. And obviously Luca and Wemby and SGA more Vince Carter, but Wemby and Giannis and all of these individuals were impacted by the dream team. And look, I think the four horsewomen, when it's all said and done, I've made this case multiple times on Twitter, and people have almost tried to laugh me off the app. But I want people to really think about it. I think the four horsewomen are more impactful than the four horsemen. I am
As a
not
group, yeah.
I am not saying the four horsewomen are a better faction than the four horsemen because they were never a faction, right? This was never a television entity that drew money, main evented 50 house shows in a row and all that stuff. No. And the four horsemen are the best faction ever. But in terms of cultural impact and significance, I think the four horsewomen have more of that than the four horsemen because the four horsemen are just professional wrestlers. But I think the four horsewomen really have broadened the scope of a genre of women's wrestling that the four horsemen didn't because even in their era, they weren't the biggest draws. Hulk Hogan was. Macho Man was
Yeah.
a bigger draw. So you can't
Yeah.
make the case that they were that impactful in comparison to the four horsewomen. I think four horsewomen are the most impactful four women we might ever see in terms of professional wrestling, at least in North America for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point, and I keep thinking of even think in America even that these House of Glory shows, um, there could be little kids there that want to wrestle based on seeing Mercedes there, and the reason why that's super important now is because we grew up loving WWE, both of us, but I mean, it's getting harder and harder to see that kids are going to be getting to go to these shows, right? The prices are getting crazy, and so it's not outrageous to say that that House of Glory show is so much more accessible for a lot of families than a WWE show is, and so that's why I think it's so important, and it just casts the net so much wider.
Yeah, and I agree. And with the modern technology we have with streaming, you can get anything on your phone or on your laptop, and you don't have to worry about getting it through a terrestrial channel. So I think that's also good. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's a really, really, really good analogy. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I never looked at the dream like when I heard it, I'm like, okay, Dream Team. And then I was like, I feel like you can split the Mercedes impact into two things. Her
Yeah,
four horsewomen impact, um, and then the obvious what's it called? The
the Mercedes effect. I like that. Yeah. All right. So overall, December usually turns into a little bit of a lull, but it'll be interesting to see where Chris Statlander goes. It'll be interesting to see what feuds we get from WWE coming out of War Games and into Royal Rumble. Mania season's just around the corner, and then kind of see besides this TV ROH TV title match, what's next for Mercedes on the AEW side of things. Um, so the year is actually coming to a close, and this last week was Thanksgiving. So your great idea. We all have a lot to be thankful for, and so we decided to focus that on matches that we're thankful for. Um, I think this is great. My list is very catered to myself and what I'm thankful for, and I think yours is probably the same. This is not a best ever or anything. This is a very almost selfish list for myself. But what were your thoughts about your list and how you put it?
uh, So what went into my top five? The idea was, the matches that we're the most thankful for. And I wanted to pick matches that had it's like my journey of professional wrestling as it relates to the women. So I picked matches that either had a personal significance to me or it had a significance in terms of opening my horizons to women's wrestling. And so I went down that path. And like I said, again, I want to caveat this. When I give my list, these are not my five favorite women's wrestling matches of all time. In
Right.
fact, there's one on my list that I don't even think as a match would be in my top 50. But there's a reason it's in there. So that's the story I'm trying to tell.
Perfect. I don't have any honorable mentions. I just went with a straight five. Do you want to kick off or do you want me to kick off?
I'll let you kick off and I'll let you go through your whole list and then I'll go through mine. And I do have an honorable mention on my list.
Do you want me to go through the whole list?
Yep.
Cool. Number five actually happened in January of last year. For many, again, this is a very personal list, but for many, this would be, it's actually one of the more forgettable matches of Mercedes' non-WWE career. But Mercedes Moné versus Yuka Sakazaki. This match took place in Huntsville, Alabama, which is about a 2 hour drive from where I live. And believe it or not, I hadn't seen Mercedes wrestle since pre-pandemic. I had tickets to several shows she was either supposed to wrestle at or whatever, and just never hadn't got to see her wrestle for quite a long time. And not only was I able to make it down to Huntsville for this match, but my seat did not fit on the floor plan, and so I basically got comp front row tickets to see her in the main event of Dynamite against Yuka that night. So I am personally thankful because that is something marked off of my checklist of getting a front row seat to a Mercedes Moné match. So that was my number five. Number four, um, actually is this podcast does not exist without match number four. And that match is Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey, um, Royal Rumble 2019. As Raj has said, he was at this show. I was watching at home, um, elated to find that Sasha Banks still had her fastball after a year of not getting to throw. I mean, basically getting to throw changeups all year and no fastballs. Um, and we have a mutual friend. Shout out Nadia and Mike, and mutual friends that we ended up getting into a debate over how we felt about the match, and everyone kind of brought Raj into it and was like, he didn't like the match as much as we all liked it. And I don't think you had watched it from home yet, but we ended up in this friends group over our thoughts on that match. So I'd be remiss if I wasn't thankful for the impact that that match has had on my wrestling um, fandom. Got friends out of it, got a great friend out of it who we have this podcast together. So I had to throw that one in there. Number three is going to be Mercedes Moné versus Hazuki. Um, it was tough to not put a Chris match on my list, and I'm going to go ahead and say that there are no Chris matches on this list. Chris versus Mercedes. Um, but because of the card it was on, these Mercedes Chris matches are on these AEW pay-per-views where, just like the one that happened last week or 2 weeks ago or last week, we're battling through card placement and crowd reaction and blah 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 blah. The Mercedes Hazuki match was the best I felt about a match, where it was on the card, how it went, how the crowd felt about it. Um, since she left WWE, and I felt like a magic about that match the night of. Like I couldn't go to bed after that match. I was so excited about how it went. There was no discourse about did the crowd like it or why, it main evented. The crowd loved it. It was amazing, and it was one of the best wrestled matches ever. And so I'm very, very thankful for that match. First upset. This may shock some people. My number two My number two is Sasha Banks versus Bailey at Brooklyn. Um, I'm thankful that this match was the big boom for the women's revolution. I think it expanded the horizons of what women are allowed to do. They've always been capable of, but what they're allowed to do in this world of wrestling. And I could talk for 3 hours about the impact that this match has had, and how many different women are going to be in the business because of it, card placement that women are going to get because of this match, and just the opportunities that this match has created. So I'm forever grateful for the greatest women's wrestling match of all time, Sasha Banks versus Bayley at Brooklyn. My number one. Any guesses? Do you want to guess?
Yes, I'm gonna take a guess here because I think it's gonna be on my list too. My guess is you're gonna put Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair as number one.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Okay.
He knows me pretty good. So I'm most thankful for this match for several reasons. Um, it's still the only one-on-one women's match to main event WrestleMania. It was put in a really, really tough spot where if they didn't deliver, a lot of bad things would have been said. And not only did they deliver, but they delivered hugely. It's a beautifully wrestled match with a great story. Um, there's real emotion. You brought up Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair. I'm sorry, I love you. Um, Bianca's lower lip kind of quivering right before the match, and then Mercedes taking a deep breath and kind of doing the all right, let's go. All the emotion in that match, really, really is meaningful. I think to any of us that advocate for women's wrestling, and want to see it placed in a higher spot. I love Bianca Belair. I obviously love Mercedes. And I'm really, really happy that they got to have this moment. What put it number one on top of all that for me is my favorite wrestler of all time got to live what she thought was her all-time dream, check that box off and say, hey, I accomplished this thing I put out in the universe for well over a decade. And I think her accomplishing what she thought was her greatest possible accomplishment at such a young age allowed her to take a step back and be like, I actually think I'm capable of accomplishing bigger things that I hadn't thought of yet. And so I don't know that she's got the courage to go out on her own and be Mercedes Moné. Don't forget, she went out on her own. She didn't jump from WWE to AEW. She jumped out on her own, created
Mhm.
a new character, didn't have a long-term contract signed anywhere. That took courage, that took guts. I don't think that happens without that main event at WrestleMania. Um, Against just a supernova of a rookie that people forget. Not only did she have a main event, but she had a fantastic match with a fantastic dance partner. So I am most thankful that that match happened of any other match.
I think it's an excellent list. I think your number one is awesome because it almost became my number one. So spoiler, it's not my number one, but it was very close to being number one. Another person we should thank for that match happening is Mother Nature. Because if it rained for 30 more minutes, apparently that was going to open the next night because they had a curfew they had to end. So that
Right.
match would have not main evented. It would have opened the next night. And then I think, a lot of the history we got was gone. So I think that's a great list. It's a very personal list for you. The Rousey Sasha Banks match is funny that you bring that on up because again, I have always said this. When you go and attend a wrestling event in a baseball stadium and you're sitting near a foul pole, it's hard to really see how good a match was. That night, I truly thought Becky Asuka was the better match from where I was sitting than Rousey Sasha. And then I watched both back and I'm like, oh no, Rousey Sasha was a damn good match. But in person, it wasn't to me that great.
Becky
It
was so over at that time. So in a baseball stadium, that match had a lot of juice. But Sasha Rousey's so well wrestled, and it's the detail work you would need to see, and far away, it's tough.
and honestly, that night to me is about Becky Lynch. I gotta be honest, like when she came out to take the spot from Lana, I've never heard a place that loud. Like she was as loud as it was as I've ever heard. So my list, so I do have some honorable mentions. Let me get my board here. I have four honorable mentions, but it's not matches. It's women and promotions. So My number four honorable mention is Shimmer in the 2010s.
Hmm.
We don't have a lot of the women's wrestling today that we have if it weren't for Shimmer, who is I think they're about to celebrate their 25th anniversary of being in existence. But I lived in Chicago and I lived in Downers Grove. I lived in Aurora. I lived in Naperville. And the truth is, I attended a lot of Shimmer events. My ex-wife knows this. I'm always been a huge wrestling fan, and it was the only women's wrestling game in town for a long time, right? Like Shimmer in that old, I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's like an armory. Um,
Right.
I met Topanga at a Shimmer event. I actually met Topanga and I was shocked that she was there. So Shimmer 2010s. I'm going to give another honorable mention to the TNA Knockouts division of the 2000s.
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome Kong and Gail Kim they deserve a lot of praise and a lot of credit and a lot of flowers for kind of opening the door for women's wrestling in North America in terms of what people like the expectations. Like they were having these killer matches and WWE was doing hair pulling. So I got to give the TNA Knockouts division a lot of respect. Number two honorable mention is 2015 Sasha Banks. I think 2015 Sasha Banks is the best women's character in the history of North American women's wrestling. Like from when she won the title against the other three horsewomen to losing it in Brooklyn and then having her NXT send off in the Iron Woman match, I could make a case that's the most impactful professional wrestling run for a woman in North America ever.
Yeah.
But my number one honorable mention, and the reason she is my number one honorable mention is I couldn't pick a match of hers, even though I know what my favorite match of hers is, as I said it last week. Minami Toyota, I want to give her a lot of thanks because if it weren't for Minami Toyota, I don't think I care about women's wrestling, to be quite honest. And I lost the love for it until the Four Horsewomen, but Minami Toyota is the only reason I care about women's wrestling to the degree I do because she saved my love of professional wrestling in the mid 90s because she was doing stuff nobody else was doing and men's wrestling sucked. And if you think men's wrestling is bad today, it was a lot worse than 1994 and 1995.
That's
So
right.
Minami Toyota, honorable mention, my number one honorable mention. If it weren't for her, I don't think I'm even doing this podcast. So my number five most thankful match is 1987 Survivor Series 10 on 10 match. And the only reason that match is on here is because there's a team in that match called the Jumping Bomb Angels. Google them for all of you folks who listen to us who are much younger than us, who probably don't even know what I'm talking about. The Jumping Bomb Angels were like the first Joshi women's wrestler I ever saw because they were in WWE for that match. They won the tag belts, lost them pretty quickly, but they won them. And they were so innovative with what they were doing as a tag team that they made Jesse Ventura break character. Jesse Ventura, the all-time great heel analyst, broke character and was like, these jumping bomb angels are amazing. He was like gorilla. They're unbelievable because they were doing stuff real time he never seen before. So he just became a fan and started to praise them, which I thought was amazing because it's like, oh my God, Jesse's praising good guys? Like, what's going on here?
Right.
Jumping Bomb Angels, because of them being in that match, it sparked my interest for what became Minami Toyota. So Jumping Bomb Angels, Survivor Series 1987. You guys can Google that match, 10 on 10 tag. Number four, I was there, ringside, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, 2016, October 3rd, I believe is the day. First time the women main evented a Raw in 11 years since Trish Stratus and Lita got on a plane from Las Vegas, took one of those, I think it was Virgin Airlines planes, landed, got our rental car, went to the arena, didn't know they were going to main event until I landed, and waited pretty much outside of the Staples Center, like just ate and did stuff waiting for the Raw, and then got back on a plane that night and went back to Vegas. But that has a personal memory for me because I got to see Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair main event, and after the cameras went off the air, both women got standing ovations from the crowd, and it was the first Raw that I think did a pretty good number against football back then. I think that match did about 2.9 million against the NFL. So that was
That's a hell of a match to have seen in person.
yeah, so that's a match I saw in person. Number three. This is from this year. I am very thankful for Bianca Belair, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley because I was really mad that the women didn't get to main event one of the nights because I thought that they built up these three women as like three major superstars. They had the Garden on fire, they had London on fire, and then they got the opening spot for night two. But those women went out there and just crushed it to the point that, all the men, had to stand up and say, okay, the women outperformed us. And look, it doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, so I don't want to give too much credence to it. But I do think it's pretty cool that it's the first ever women's five-star graded match at WrestleMania, right? And it's actually the first ever WWE women's five-star match as well, for North America for sure. So I'm thankful for that match because I thought all three women, they came and they
It's a
delivered, and
great
it's
match.
still, it might end up being, I mean, I can tell you it'll probably be my favorite match of this year, and it might be my favorite women's match of all time, but I think it's too early to make that declaration because my number two match that I'm most thankful for is actually your number one. Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, WrestleMania 37 main event. It's not only time a singles women's match is main evented WrestleMania, it's the only time ever that two African American competitors have main evented WrestleMania as a
Male or
match,
female.
male or female. The Rock has main evented, of course, but he's never main evented with another African American. So the fact that you have two women main eventing and they're two African American women main eventing. And there's a legitimate argument to be made that this is the best WrestleMania main event ever. It's a
Hmm.
legitimate argument that because people are gonna, well, what was, well, Shawn and Taker WrestleMania 25 was not the main event. Macho Man Savage Ricky Steamboat was not the main event. Bret Hart Owen Hart was not the main event. Austin Bret Hart was not the main event. I think this match was better than Michael's Bret Iron Man match because I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of 60-minute Iron Man matches
Right.
because there's always an anticlimactic thing to it. So there's an argument that says the best WrestleMania main event of all time. So I think for these two women to have that first, the only singles women's match to main event, African American, and it to actually over deliver expectations, I am very thankful for it because I remember all of us wrestling fans that night watching it, talking to each other, just being blown away by what these two women went out there and accomplished. And it's a great wrestling match. Now, I still believe both have had better matches since then, but I don't think either of them have had a more impactful match since that one. Neither of them on either side of the ledger. And my
Yeah.
number one match is your number two match. It is the match that is behind you on the poster because I believe with all my heart that Sasha Banks versus Bailey, Brooklyn 2015, is to me the way they have BC AD on dates, which is 2000 BC, which is before Christ, AD is after death. I truly believe there's a world of women's wrestling before Brooklyn and a world of women's wrestling after Brooklyn. And
Yep.
I think it's a landmark watershed match. I think the same way Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage influenced generations of male wrestlers with their WrestleMania match, with the false finishes, with the kickouts, all that stuff. I think Sasha Banks and Bailey did the exact same thing for a generation of women's wrestlers. And I don't believe we have any of the women's wrestling stuff we have today if it weren't for that match. There's a reason that's the only match that they've ever made a documentary about. WWE, I mean. I know there's been the Hell in a Cell glass ceilings documentary, but WWE has made a documentary about that match. WWE in their women's evolution documentary, the 24/7 thing that they do, WWE 24, Stephanie McMahon said Brooklyn. Like they were talking and she said Brooklyn. She goes, everything changed after Brooklyn. Everything changed. Go back and watch that match closely. Who was backstage watching it on the monitor? Vince McMahon. He was backstage watching it, and he was one of the first people when they came back to thank them and hug them for how great that match was. And they did not capitalize fully on that match, in my opinion, for either women. But the next night, Sasha Banks was the most over person in the building at Madison at Barclays. The
Yep.
next night, when she came out in that god awful Bella's PCB Team Bad match, the crowd was chanting, "We want Sasha." And when they lost, the crowd booed. And they chanted, "We want Sasha" over and over again for months on end until they got her.
Months, almost a year, right?
Right. And so to me, that is the match that all of us women's wrestling fans who love the genre, if we're being honest with ourselves, there might never be a more impactful women's wrestling match than that one. I'm talking ever. I'm not just talking North America. I'm talking Japan. I'm talking America, Canada, whatever. Because for and I believe Manami Toyota is the best wrestler, women's wrestler of all time. But I'm saying there's no singular Manami Toyota match that influenced generations. She influenced women, but not one of her matches did that. I think this is the case where the match influenced the generation. Like they saw it and they're like, okay, I want to do that for my rest of my life. And I don't know if I can praise this match enough. I really believe that I don't care about star ratings. I really don't. But I think it's a blip on his publication for not giving this five
Him
because if
getting this wrong will forever, yeah.
because if you look up highest rated women's wrestling matches of all time, this match is rated the same. And I'm not picking on this match because I think she's my favorite wrestler right now. But there's an Io Sky Jordana Grace match versus Roxanne and who was her partner? Um See, I can't even remember, but they got four and a
Yeah.
half, right? It got the
Right.
same grade as the Brooklyn match. And Charlotte Becky Last Woman Standing got a higher rating. And those two women know their match isn't better than Brooklyn. So to me, it's like not giving it five, it's a stain on his publication because it's like historical record keeping is false because it's like when I look up five-star women's wrestling matches, that needs to be there. I don't care if he even has to go back and make an edit. He needs to do it because it deserves it. Because I can make a case it's better than five. Like I can make a case that's 6 out of 5, and I'd be okay with it.
You wouldn't change a thing about it. It did. I wouldn't even say it did exactly what it was supposed to do. More than any match ever, it did more than it was ever supposed to do.
Over delivered.
Yep.
Over
All right.
delivered. We have come to the end of our week. Next week, I think we'll be doing more of a recap of the week's shows because I don't believe there's any PLEs on the horizon. I think the next WWE one is Saturday night's main event.
No, we got the ROH one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Final battle. So Athena versus Persephone, which should be a really cool match, and then Mercedes versus Red Velvet, and then I think we're getting at least two matches and maybe the final of the pure ROH Pure Women's Championship. Don't they do the semifinal and then the final on the same
Yep.
night?
Yep.
Yeah. So
So that's going to be good. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming. And again, thank you for all who subscribe to us via whatever channel you subscribe to us. And just want to ask everybody, when you get our episodes via Apple or Spotify, please make sure you listen to the ads, because if you do skip over the ads, then that impacts our revenue streams. So I know some of the ads are hokey, and it's like, I'm not going to buy a lawnmower, but hey, just if you care about us, and I know you do, please just listen to the ads.
appreciate everybody's support. And we'll keep it rolling here in the next couple weeks. December will be fun, and whatever we've got to fill, if there's not a lot of activity, as you guys know, we'll come up with a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
And last thing, we usually always talk about football, but both of our TV screens just met it. I don't know what happened this week. I was trying to watch this game on Friday, and hi Bobby, and it just blacked out. And it started during the second half of the game on Sunday. I have not had my TV working for football since then. So, I don't know who's
My
playing.
TV's only showing basketball currently. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
so I'm watching old Minami Toyota matches because I don't know what's happening in football. But on that note, everybody, we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everyone.